I went to a relatively small commuter college in Delaware during my freshman year. I had my classes set up horribly. I would get to school at 3 p.m., have a couple classes, then a 2-hour gap before my next class, and I wouldn't leave campus until around 9. I'll admit, in my early years of college, I was kind of antisocial. I could have been trying to meet up with people in the food hall, or joined clubs, or even just went to the library during my breaks. But for my final class twice a week, after my 2-hour gap, it would be in a basement classroom of one of the business halls. This basement only had this and one other classroom, and rarely ever would there be anyone else down there. Commonly, I would just go straight down there, eating my food in the classroom, then just do homework on my laptop for the remainder of the couple hours, or even just sit and play games on my phone or watch videos. Yeah, like I said, I was pretty antisocial. Well, one particular day, I felt lazy before class and didn't make myself food, so I had to go to the cafeteria hall to get a sandwich. I sat at a table alone and began eating, but quickly became uncomfortable after realizing I was the only one sitting alone at a table when a majority of everyone else there was sitting with friends. So I wrapped up the sandwich and decided I'd just eat down in the classroom and wait there like I usually did. I stepped out into the dark and marched back to the basement of the business hall and ate the rest of it there. Before I finished the sandwich, I heard the door creak open behind me. I was in the back corner seat right by the door, so when I turned, I was almost face to face with some kid I'd never seen before. He looked maybe a couple years older than me. He had this gross overgrown beard. He wore glasses, and he had a bit of a belly. Seriously, I'd never seen him in this class. We made awkward eye contact for a second until I looked away and continued eating. I made a mental note that the kid looked off, like he was weird or something was just not right about him. I saw in my peripheral vision the kid sit down in the desk literally right next to mine. I wanted to say, so badly, why are you sitting right there? But I just tried my best not to look at him and just ignore it. I looked at the time on my phone. There was still a whole hour and a half before class started. I looked up, not at the kid, but slightly looking to the left just enough so I could see the kid looking at me. That was enough for me already. I finished my sandwich, picked up my bag, and walked out of the classroom. I didn't care where I was going, maybe a bench outside, just not there anymore. When I stepped back outside into the darkness, I looked around for somewhere to go and sit for a while. I walked to the more woodsy section of campus and sat on a bench under a nice and bright light post. It was chilly out since it was late fall, but I'd deal with it. Not many students walked by this section of campus. It was by a pretty unused small parking lot surrounded by trees. Suddenly, I heard cracks and crunches of leaves. I looked around and spotted something between two pine-like bushes. There was someone standing there. I stood up and extended my neck out, I guess to get a better look. It was that guy again. He wasn't even making an effort to hide his face. I was about to take off again when he cut through the two bushes and said hi. He started to talk to me, but the way he spoke was also off. He tended to overpronounce everything, if that makes sense. He started asking me so many questions about myself, like if I go to school here, what my major is, where I work, what I do for fun. It was so painfully uncomfortable, but I tried to be nice by also asking him some questions. We ended up sitting down for a while. Eventually, he asked for my number. I don't know why I gave it to him. I guess I was trying to be nice. And then he turned even weirder. He asked where I live. At first, I answered with my hometown, but he said, no. Like, where do you live? I paused, not knowing what to say. I repeated my same answer. Then he said, no. Like, what's your address? I didn't even ask him why he was asking that. I just said, I gotta go, and quickly walked away. When I looked back, the guy was following me. I didn't know what was wrong with him, but he was freaking me out. I skipped class that night and drove straight home. I crashed into bed and started doing my homework. After finishing a short paper, I checked my phone, and it was full of texts from some random fake number. There had to be like 20 texts. They were all from that kid. It started with, hey. Then he worked down to, you have a nice house. I suddenly felt a pain in my chest area. I replied back, go away or I'm calling the police. And then there was a knock at my window. I had the shade down. I couldn't see who it was, but along with the knock, I heard his muffled but familiar voice say, open the window. I yelled, I'm calling the cops. And he went silent. My mom and dad weren't home, so I really did end up calling the police. Nothing else happened before the police came. I showed them the texts and explained the whole story. They said, though, that it would be better to see if it continued since the kid didn't actually make any threats yet. They left. saying call again if he came back to the house and to block his number. The next day, the college sent a text to all students' phones warning about sightings of a dangerous young man seen walking around with a knife. Classes were shut down for the day. Police searched the entire campus. I called to give my story and was asked to give it to the police again. As far as I know, that creepy guy was never caught. I don't know why he was targeting me. I don't know what his motive was. But this is the story about how I was almost murdered in my own home by someone I met at school.